Okay, let's start. I've lost already a little time. So, are you still doing frequently asked questions? You're doing it wrong. That's what I was saying in my description of the presentation. And to dive into that, I'm going to dive into the feedback loop of FAQ. Because if you have a frequently asked questions section, yeah, there's probably some inefficiencies in your process of content management. The feedback loop of FAQ is people cannot find content on your site. Then they will be asking personal questions to an employee in your organization. The employee will take their precious time in order to answer these questions. And if you're lucky, then they will update the frequently asked questions section. If not, then they will just keep on losing their time. If you have good employees, then they will update the frequently asked questions section, and then you can hope that the people will find the section and have their question answered. If not, then it's just the feedback loop of FAQ. This takes a lot of time and it's very inefficient. If you look on Google or on any ChatGPT or on Le Chat or whatever kind of thing that you use, these are the main points why you want to have a frequently asked question. I'm not going to read all of them. I've highlighted it, look at the slides later, we've lost already too much time. But actually, all of this, and the next as well, all these reasons why you have frequently asked questions are deprecated if you look at what's happening out there. So what's happening, AI-aided editing, DALL-E, cognitive search, GPT, Llama, these things, actually they deprecate the way that we are using information, that we are consuming information. You can't ask a site a question is not true anymore. So frequently asked questions should actually be just an interface where you ask your question and you get an answer to your question, just like everybody understands with ChatGPT or other systems. In the past, there was a lot of talk about personalization. Dropsolid is very active in the personalization space. Well, having an answer to your question is the highest form of personalization. You have a question and you receive an answer to your specific question. People already expect this for Alexa, Google Home, and possibly very soon also from your systems with your information. So how can we get the fuck out? There's three things I think that we can that we should do to get the frequently asked questions out of your site. So the first one is having the process that allows people to question up-to-date content from your site without every time retraining the AI. I think this is important. So you have to be able to edit your content the entire time, and the AI should be, or the system, should allow you to query it without constantly retraining the AI. The second thing I think is important is the content has all the answers to the questions that you get asked. Of course, you want to answer all the questions that people ask your base. And I think, especially in the beginning, there should be a human in the loop. There's a proof for automatic systems, but let's just start with our feet on the ground. We're going to dive into the first one. How can we make sure that there is a system that allows you to answer questions from your content base without retraining the AI every time? And this is where Retrieval Augmented Generation comes in. I'm going to take a sip of water, because if I can make you understand this schema, then the rest of the presentation, then I've succeeded. That will be great. Okay. Good. For starters, you see on the left side there is content. This can be Drupal content, this can be external sites, this can be a SharePoint system, this could be like all kinds of information. Then you see steps 1, 2, 3. Here, the content is going into the vector store. Before that happens, step 2 will be the chunking of the content. So we're not going to paste the entire thing directly into the vector database, because we need to create embeddings for that. You see the black icons with the wheel. This is the Openai logo. We're using Openai in this example. Actually, you can replace this with other AIs as well. This is just to illustrate. In this case, we're going to make, from this textual content, from this chunk, we're going to make a vector. So the embedding AI is allowing us to make a vector from a specific piece of text. This vector will then be stored in the vector store. A vector is just a series of numbers. How can you see this? This is really, there's two types of vectors. There's like dense and sparse vectors. Doesn't matter too much. It's a numeric representation of your text. Actually, it boils down to the concepts that you use in your text. So it's the distances between words. Then on your system, you have perhaps a question window or a search bar or something, and a person asks a question inside of this search box. From this question, we will also create an embedding, also a vector. This is also a series of numbers. With this series of numbers, we're going to do a query, semantic vector search, a query to the database. This is just a database like Postgres or other database technology, Elasticsearch maybe if you have. And then we're going to ask the nearest neighbors. The query, the ways that vector databases query works is a little bit different than traditional systems, but you get similar content related to your query. So if you're asking about legislation in car industry, then you will get all the articles related to that that are the closest to that content that you've asked, that you've requested. Out of that vector store, you get a series of articles. This series of articles is actually just textual content. It could be 4 or 5 articles with content that's related to my question. With this text, we're going to make a ChatGPT prompt. So we're going to ask the ChatGPT, okay, given this question that the user has asked you, and this content that is very up to date and relevant to the question that has been asked, now generate an answer to the question. And then the ChatGPT, or it could be Llama or other language models, will generate an answer to your question. And so this means that actually, the moment you change in Drupal, or on external knowledge base, or on SharePoint, or on Google Drive, it will flow into the vector store, and even minutes later, your results will represent that. So you don't need to retrain the AI, because actually we're just using the AI to make vectors and to generate answer based on the content that you have. Okay, am I making this clear? Please raise your hand just to get an idea. Okay, yeah, people are understanding this. No need to explain it again. Okay, this is good. Well, if you apply this to our websites, there's multiple types. The simplest type of integration is, okay, we have a search form. What is there in Leuven for blind people? And you get an answer based on the knowledge base with perhaps references to your content. But of course, you can go virtual assistant style and make it much more complex. If you want to have multiple levels, the first level could be a basic intent like chatbots in maybe 2000 to 2015. A typical intent is just where you say hello and it says, this is the greeting, I'm going to respond with hi. Then you have the API-driven intents, where you say, okay, I want to order 2 pepperoni pizzas on this address. And then it says, okay, I'm going to place the order. That's just intent detection, but driven by an API in the backend. Then we have our retrieval augmented generation. It's sort of like we can do lookups. We don't know the intent yet, with just a question that has been asked. And we're going to look up in our knowledge base to answer to the person. So you go in with any question and you get information from your backend infrastructure. And then, of course, if you want to do it properly, you want to have your virtual assistant hand over to a real agent because, yeah, you're asking this question, it keeps not responding to what you actually want, and you have a handover. So if you want to have a proper approach, this is where you want to go. I've already told you, yeah, I can do this with Drupal alone. I will do a live demo later where I just query Drupal with the content, but you, of course, can also include multiple sites. So there's already open source solutions that do this for you. Some examples. I'm going to do the live demo straight away. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Hopla. I've prepared some questions. Can you see? You can see the screen. Yeah. Okay, so I have a Dutch question for starters. When was the 8-year-old war and what was the impact for Mechelen? So I have one article in my Drupal knowledge base about Mechelen. I just copy-pasted the Wikipedia page, and you can ask it anything about this content. So you see in the 16th century, the political influence decreased dramatically due to government institutions, resulting in the 8-year war. But I've also indexed some pages from the Drupal camp site. So I'm asking here, who are the platinum sponsors for the Drupal camp in Ghent? Well, apparently it's Dropsolid and Calibrate. Great, because that's true. It's just based on the content that we have. Or what are the airports that I should land in to be close to the Drupal camp? And then it will reformat the content that you have on the Drupal camp website just to respond to the user's request. Another one, here's who are the keynote speakers at the Drupal camp in Ghent. It's Ben Codron, Philippe van Rijk, Jutta Harsman, and Merlijn Sebrechts. So it's just reconstructing the content you have in order to be able to answer your question. You can also ask it questions like, how long is a crocodile? And since I have no content in my Drupal about crocodiles, maybe I did write something about crocodiles in an example. How tall is a giraffe? Yeah, so the provided context does not contain information about the height of a giraffe, so I don't have any content on giraffes in the knowledge base, so it cannot answer. It's not like GPT where you can ask it anything about all of the training data. It's just reconstructing the content that you have in your Drupal space. Okay. Is this cool or what? No? I think this will revolutionize how people interact with content. And in Holland, they are very good in statements. I think asking a question is just the new way of consuming information. There's other demos. There's the guys from Swiss in the Netherlands. They made the Postbus 42, which is a site where you ask a question, and the idea is exactly the same. So you have your generated answer. How you formatted it, that's up to you, of course. If you want to make it with nice HTML, you have your references in the bottom. They make some nice icons there in the bottom, so you can show how you want it. The Swiss guys from Leap, they've also made Zurich City GPT, and you see that it's exactly the same. This is more like with the Postbus 42, they have more the chat-like interface where you see in the bottom they have the chat bar, and you can really talk, chat with your content. They keep the context of the conversation. With Zurich City GPT, it's more like you ask a question, it's like a simple form, you click on ask your question, and you get an answer rendered with the references linked inside it. So this is really, okay, excellent, good. This is really how you can consume content. In Belgium, there's also an example, the regeringsrobot, the governmental robot. I think they also made it as a chat-like robot, and if you look thoroughly, you can see that the references here, they're in the bottom, and they are used here. This way you can consume the governmental information, but I think there's some improvements to be made, both to the user interface and how it works, but okay, it's good they're doing this stuff. Okay, so with that, we've handled the first part of getting the FAQ out of our sites. How can we now make sure that it contains all the questions? Because if you just index your content, you're not sure that you have all the questions that people ask about it. So you need a solution to that. And how do answers or questions really end up in your organization? People send you an email, there's maybe a CRM system, or there's like a help desk employee, they will type an answer and it just consumes time. But how can you structurally solve that? One way would be a suggestion where the CRM system does the same lookup call to the retrieval augmented generation, only it's a question formulated very similar. This is the email of the user, answer this email, but generate a response email in this format, and then it will generate a reply email, save it in the CRM, and the employee can just validate the mail. This is the most important thing here, I think, because this employee has a very important function. If this email is not correct or not sufficient, this means that in our knowledge base, in our Drupal, is actually not sufficient content to answer this question. This is actually where we are improving the content. So the employee has the task, which is very important, not only to say, okay, this email is valid, but if it is not, to to go back to the source and change the system. And sometimes these answers will be generated from frequently asked questions sections, but I think they should be removed altogether, and all of them should be properly integrated into the content that handles this specific subject. And this way you will never need the frequently asked sections anymore, ever again, because the answers will be answered from the knowledge that is complete. Okay, one example of this, Stripe is doing this already, and they're doing it without a human in the loop. They are sending emails automatically with support questions, with answers, and they have no human in the loop anymore. They are so confident that it works that they just, and I think they have like a handover situation if the confidence is not high enough that they will route it to an employee, but they're using it already in production. So there is high confidence that can be reached with this setup. But I hear you think, the GDPR, AI, what about my data? Oh my God. If it's only public data that you're working with, yeah, then you can use Openai or other systems, but of course we're in Europe, this is relevant to us, you know. And there is solutions. In my schema, there was 3 black dots. So 2 were for the embedding AI and 1 was for the language model AI. And so for the embedding AIs, there's the Hugging Face massive text embedding benchmark. And so this is the embedding benchmark, which you can use to see which embedding model is right for you. And there's also open source models. So you can use them and you can run your own embedding model. Vector database, similarly, I'm doing my demo with Pinecone, but you can also run, for example, Qdrant in your Docker, on your stack. You can run it where you want. And so you can run this also perfectly isolated in your system, or Elasticsearch for some people that are using it. And then you have your language models, where we had just a very interesting presentation about open source AIs. Well, you could use Llama 3, run it on your system. It's not an actual open source model, but you can contain it inside of your system and at least have the data not traveling to the States. So, I think with that, how much time do I still have? 5 minutes. Okay. We can scratch off this. So all the reasons why frequently asked questions are relevant, you can just replace the frequently asked questions to RAG, and all of them are still relevant. It's exactly the same. The only thing is, why is retrieval augmented generation better? Well, it's more personal. The frequently asked questions section is very anonymous. This is like personal answers to a question. It can handle multiple questions at once or complex queries. There's no overload of information, a FAQ page with thousands of question and answers. It can answer, it scales automatically, and you could escalate or hand over if you cannot answer the question. It also is possible to integrate into multiple platforms, like in applications or social media or bots or whatever. That was the end of frequently asked questions as we know it. What a relief. I have some other AI inspiration things that I want to share with you, just because, of course, frequently asked questions isn't the only AI thing, and I think having Openai in your WYSIWYG should be there, and you can use the modules already to have automatic taxonomy suggestions, and you can also have automatic translations or DALL-E in your browser. But one of the cooler implementations of AI is with the interpolator, where if you write your content, typically an employee writes content and they need to input everything, but with AI interpolator, you can just write one piece and it will generate derivative content fully automatically. It will generate a Facebook post, a Twitter post, and with the modules, the submodules for AI interpolator, you have 150,000 AI models at your fingertips. Examples of this are an automatic podcast, an automatic assistant talking your content in a video. These kinds of things are possible. There was one blog post I read that with one AI iteration, if you would use AI interpolator to ask yourself the question about this content, which questions that would arise from this article, and you just answer them by updating your content, you have like 40% better SEO. So this really can impact how your content is perceived and is successful. I've also tried the interpolator on the Drupal camp thing, and it generated me this LinkedIn text, so it's something that you might be able to use as well. Another example for this is automatic translations. And We have one prospect where we're thinking about using this to do a cleanup of all the old content and having it automatically be translated into all the languages on the system. So it really is super powerful. In a schema, it looks like this. You have many unedited or untranslated articles. With a batch job, you're going to ask it to be rewritten or translated, and it will automatically save, and you have all your content. And with Interpolator, it's super powerful. You can have a block that says, okay, the summary of this content, which is applicable for all of your content, or you have translations, or there are so many applications. I'm finished. Okay. 3 more slides. The paradigm is changing. People don't know on the workspace these days. Young people that come onto the work floor don't know what this is. But they do know how, if they ask a question, that they will get an answer. This is just expectation. Make sure that with your systems, you're also adapting to these changing expectations. But since we're on content management, we're on the source of the content. So please make sure that your content is structured very well, that you have clean data, because not only your AIs, but the external AIs will come train on your content. They do it already. So make sure that your data is clean and that you manage your Drupal accordingly. And there's a big divide, the AI divide. People and companies that use AI will be more efficient than companies and people that don't use it. So make sure that that you can leverage if you want. And with that, I'm coming to an end. Make sure to contact me on LinkedIn. Now working for the Digitals. And if you're interested in AI, I have some more in-depth talks, and there will probably be some other talks as well on the first Drupal AI camp in London in October. So be there if you're interested. That's it. No time for questions, right? It's coffee time. Okay. We'll do 3 questions, if there are.
Could you just change the question in your real-life demo? Because now you asked it, what are the diamond sponsors? Which is very much oriented to the content already on the website, but ask, what are the biggest sponsors? Or, I don't know, most important sponsors, or something that really is a question an end user might ask if they don't know the terminology that we use.
Like this?
Yeah, something like that. Main, biggest, whatever.
The thing is, with the embeddings, it takes abstraction of the specific wordings.
Yeah, but I was just wondering. It's just so it actually detects it, so that's cool.
So it's really, if you're writing an article about cars, and the content is about automobiles, it just takes distance of the actual words. That's the powerful thing of this embedding AI. So it makes it really powerful.
Yeah, but also needs to know the synonyms, for example. Platinum,
Exactly. So
best,
that's the training data for the embedding AI. Yeah. They've used a big body of knowledge to train these embeddings AI, so they can know the distances or synonyms between words.
Okay. Who else?
Good question. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So in real practical terms, like let's say that I have a Drupal site with a large body of knowledge and I don't have a large engineering team or anyone who is already experienced with AI. Like how much can you kind of quantify how much work is involved to go from I have a Drupal site with a large body of knowledge to I want to set something up like this?
This is no custom development. What I'm showing here, there's no custom development in here. This is a Drupal config module, and the module is called Search API AI. And with the correct tools and the correct configuration, you can do this on your PC. I've configured it multiple times with multiple people. There's even YouTube videos from Jamie on it online. So
okay, so it's all pointy clicky.
Sort of, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Take the mic, and then it's on the recording as well.
Yeah, I mean, basically you're configuring everything in the UI, but
yes.
you would need to paid membership or ChatGPT or?
in this demo, yes, I'm using the AI embedding from OpenAI, and I'm also using the language model from OpenAI. So in this case, yes, I need the API key for OpenAI. That's correct. Okay, that's it. Those were 3 questions. Thank you, and enjoy the coffee break and the rest of the